Everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Demetrius here, and in this video, just like the thumbnail and title suggests, we're going to be talking about Roth IRAs, really what some of the advantages and disadvantages are, answering some questions about them, and then ultimately, should you be putting your money inside of a Roth IRA? But before we get into that, I just want to remind you, if you haven't hit the like button or if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, and you've enjoyed the content or you've been learning something, feel free to go ahead and do that. Just wanted to send a quick, very gentle reminder to you. So without further ado, let's hop into it. All right, so the first question is, when did Roth IRAs come about? Where did they really come from to begin with? And I think the answer might surprise some of you because Roth IRAs have actually not been around for very long, right? I'm 27 years old, born in 1994. The Roth IRA didn't come into existence until 1998, and it was a product of the Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997. And basically, there was this guy named William Roth and this other gentleman named Bob. They were senators in their respective states. They came together and they wanted to put together something that allowed people to put money into it where it can grow tax-free and they can access those same dollars tax-free, including the growth at some later point in life. And so that's a small little history lesson about the Roth IRA. So the second question that you may have is, what is a Roth IRA? And before we get into that, I want to share a quick little aside, a little story about my own experience about a Roth IRA years and years ago when I first heard about it for the first time. I actually knew that the IRA stood for something. I knew that it was an acronym. So I'm like, I guess the Roth must also be an acronym for something as well. But as we just learned in the short little history lesson that I just gave you, we now know that the Roth does not stand for anything. It's just named after Mr. William Roth, the senator of Delaware, back in the 80s and 90s, I believe. But essentially the IRA, right, that stands for Individual Retirement Account. And the Roth IRA in and of itself, just remember that it is not the investment. You can put investments inside of it, and the types of investments people typically put into it are things that are tied to the stock market, whether it's individual stocks, options, mutual funds, ETFs. And maybe I'll make a whole video about what all those things are, but that's essentially what people are putting inside of Roth IRAs more often than not. So that's a little bit about what a Roth IRA is. All right, so what are some of the advantages of a Roth IRA, and why do people go with investing or putting money inside of a Roth IRA to begin with? So the biggest reason, one of the biggest reasons I should say, is that you get to use after-tax dollars. So money that has already been taxed is money that you get to put inside of the Roth IRA and then put it inside of its respective investments and stuff like that. So basically, money that you have received from your paycheck, your W-2 source of income, you get to use that money to invest in the Roth IRA. So another advantage about Roth IRAs is that in the future, when you want to start taking withdrawals or basically have an income stream coming to you when you're in retirement or just older in age, you'll be able to withdraw those dollars tax-free, right? So the money that you put into it and the growth of it, you get to withdraw tax-free, and that's a huge, huge advantage. And then the question is, why is this so advantageous? One of the reasons that this is so advantageous, and I think there's a lot of reasons that really go into it, and I think people can get a little philosophical, people can get a little political about it, and that's not my aim at all. But one of the reasons that it can be really advantageous is because we just don't know what the future holds in terms of tax rates, right? Right now, this is just kind of the facts. We're in some of the lowest tax environments we've seen in a very, very long time. And then at the same time, we have all these unfunded liabilities and all this debt as a country. I'm talking to the tune of, tens of trillions of dollars. And so, I mean, who knows, like what's gonna happen in the future, what legislation is gonna do. But for me personally, I'd rather pay the taxes today than worrying about paying the taxes at a later point in life. So that's just my own view on it. You do exactly whatever you want to do, and I'm not trying to give financial advice. So don't take this as financial advice. Once again, I'm just a random dude on the internet, on YouTube, trying to help people get off on the right foot. So do what you wish with it. Now this leads me to some of the disadvantages of a Roth IRA as well. And one of the main disadvantages of a Roth IRA is that there's just limitations to how much you can put into it. Granted, over the last 23 years since it's been in existence, it started off at being able to put $2,000 per year into it. That was the maximum. But then now to this day, as long as you're under the age of 50, you'll be able to contribute up to $6,000 per year into the Roth IRA. And then if you're over the age of 50, you'll be able to contribute $7,000 per year into the Roth IRA. Now, That's a disadvantage for people who are able to save a lot more money and want to save more money in a tax-free environment so they can access their money tax-free in retirement. So that's one of the disadvantages, is that there's just limits to how much you can put into it. Now, another disadvantage is that there's income limitations as well. So what I mean by that is, if you're a single person, you make $140,000 or more per year, you're basically phased out and basically disqualified from contributing to a Roth IRA because the government deems you as a person who makes too much money, right? And then if you are a couple, a married couple filing jointly, if you make $208,000 collectively per year, then you're gonna be phased out or disqualified from being able to contribute to a Roth IRA as well. So that can be problematic, especially for people who really want to keep storing dollars, keep investing dollars into a place that's gonna allow them to withdraw money tax-free in retirement. And then also, some people are watching this right now, maybe you're not at the income level right now, but you have dreams of starting a business, you have dreams of walking up the corporate ladder to a point where you are making that amount of money. And then once you get there, you're not gonna be able to contribute that anymore. And so it's a whole nother conversation about where you can then store your dollars to access them tax-free in the future, but I won't be touching on that in this video. But what I will say about all this is that the average salary, the average American salary is about $56,000, $57,000. So most people in America are able to contribute, as long as they're working, are able to contribute to a Roth IRA, which is an amazing thing, because I think it's a great thing for people to be able to invest money in a place and have it grow tax-free and withdraw it tax-free as well. Now, the last thing I'll say about all the income limitations and stuff like that is that maybe a person or two watching this right now is going to say, hey Demetrius, but what about backdoor Roth and everything like that? Now, I get it, I know how backdoor Roths work, but I'm not going to delve into that topic today in this video at all. If you guys want to do a little bit of research on that, feel free to do it, but I feel like this video is not the place to touch on backdoor Roths. So without further ado, let's move on. So the big question that every single person wants to know the answer to is, should I put my money in a Roth IRA? And my answer is, I don't know. The reason I say I don't know is because, first of all, I'm just a random guy on the internet. I don't want to give you any financial advice. I don't want to tell you what you should do or what you shouldn't do, because I don't know your situation, right? And it's not my place to be able to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. But I think by going into it with a lot of education and understanding how a product works and the results that you want to accomplish, that's the kicker word right there, is the results that you want to accomplish. Then from there, you can make a very educated decision. You can make a very sound decision about whether or not you should put dollars inside of a Roth IRA or not. As you guys are kind of hearing, I like to talk a lot about results, what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And I do that very intentionally, because if you don't know where you're going, I believe any road can get you there, right? Any road can get you nowhere, you know what I mean? So with all that said, I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned something. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe button, the notification bell. And if you want to learn a little bit about the two most popular methods to paying off debt, go ahead and click this video right here, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.